and all hereditary claims to office or ecclesiastical titles were declared null and void and rejected. So just because your uncle was the abbot of Fulda doesn't mean that you, as his nephew, are entitled to that office. Clerics were warned against giving offense by their haircut or by their clothing, and the laity and religious were discouraged, told they were to avoid attending masses of priests who continued to live with their wives or concubines, those who were giving scandal and being disobedient to the church. Clerics ought to be, in fact, in a name, temples of God, vessels of the Lord, and sanctuaries of the Holy Spirit, the sixth canon said. The canon also remarked on tithes. Tithes of the church may not be possessed by laymen. So this, when you hear these things talking about laymen, think of secular princes. That's the main threat at this time, coming in and taking over land, taking over revenues that belong to the church to run their own courts and their own kingdoms. To do so, the Second Lateran Council taught was a sacrilege and risked eternal damnation. A threat of excommunication was attached to this abuse, and the 25th canon forbade laymen from distributing ecclesiastical benefices. Again, think secular princes getting involved in the works of the church on that front. Work animals, this is a kind of an interesting one, belonging to clerics, monks, pilgrims, merchants, and peasants were to be left in peace and not to be stolen or harassed. The truce of God, those dates that we saw in the First Lateran Council, in which warfare was to cease among Catholic monarchs, was renewed. The greed of usury was condemned. Joust and other contests that often resulted in death were condemned, and those who died in such activities were to be denied Christian funerals. Those laying violent hands on monks or clerics were declared anathema, and a penalty was placed upon them that they would have to seek reconciliation from the Holy See, from Rome itself, and not from a local priest or bishop. Those who laid violent hands on people seeking refuge in a church were automatically excommunicated. So the importance of the church as a place of sanctuary was reinforced here. One interesting canon was canons 18 and 19. They're connected. The 18th canon condemned the crime of arson. Arsonists were to be deprived of Christian burial and are not to be reconciled with the church without first making amends and promising never to commit such actions. So arson was not simply playing with matches, but it was depriving a family of their entire livelihood. It could easily force someone's entire family into destitution, destroying all the equipment, all of the animals, everything that would help this family live would be destroyed in something like this. So a very serious crime. And bishops who relaxed this decree were required to make restitution or be deprived of their own office for a year. So a very serious penalty attached to the crime of arson. Priests and bishops were warned against false penances. When the penitent did not or does not or is not asked to renounce all previous sins. So it is not possible for a penitent, someone confessing, to be absolved only of certain sins and not others. The absolution covers all sins. But if someone is not detached, does not have the amendment of life to leave behind those sinful actions of the past, at least that desire, that intention to do so, then that absolution does not work essentially, because there's the clinging on to, the holding on to by the penitent of those past sins, and one is either forgiven of all sins or forgiven of none. So this warning goes up ultimately for the good of the penitent. Addressing the threats of the time, we see that the murderous art of the crossbow and archers were prohibited against Christians and Catholics as anathema. And here ends our discussion of the Second Lateran Council.